Daddy, what's the parade for?
It's a gay pride rally to celebrate the anniversary of Stonewall.
What's that?
Let me show you. I'm a big supporter of the gay rights movement, so I've collected some newsreels about the issue. Do you want to see them?
Yes, Daddy.
Yay! Oh.
Good evening and welcome to Flower Power News Live. It's been roughly a year since the slogan, "Gay is Good," was created, and while today is now a commonplace slogan for the growing gay rights movement, what is little known, however, is the history of the phrase. Created as a parallel to Black is Beautiful and mimicking Stokely Carmichael, the phrase was propelled by Dr. Frank Kameny. In 1957, Dr. Frank Kameny, a veteran of World War II and a hired astronomer of the U.S. Army in Washington, D.C., was fired from his job due to his sexual orientation. This inspired Kameny to become a spearhead for the gay rights movement starting on April 17, 1965, when Kameny and Jack Nichols launched the first series of public protests for gay rights with a picket line in front of the White House. With support from other gay rights groups, this protesting was able to expand to nationwide protests at locations such as the Pentagon and Independence Hall. And now in recent news, it is rumored that Kameny is planning to be the first openly homosexual candidate to run for a position in the U.S. Congress.
Wow, that's really interesting, Daddy.
It sure is. Kameny was a really influential person.
So is everything perfect now?
Not quite. Watch.
Hello, and welcome to Flower Power News Live. I'm your host, Inez. Today is June 28, 1969, and we bring you important news of a riot at a gay bar in New York. The present situation at the Stonewall Inn is currently unclear, and we have not yet received an explanation for the violent event. Police are advising the public to avoid the Christopher Street area of Greenwich Village if at all possible. According to the New York Times, hundreds of young men went on a rampage in Greenwich Village shortly after 3 a.m. yesterday after a force of plainclothes men raided a bar the police said was well known for its homosexual clientele. 13 persons were arrested and 4 policemen were injured. The young men threw bricks, bottles, garbage, pennies, and a parking meter at the policemen. Deputy Seymour Pine said that a large crowd formed in the square after being evicted from the bar. Police reinforcements were sent to the area to hold off the crowd. Police also responded to these attacks by beating and arresting the gay rioters. According to the New York Post, as persons involved in the raid were driven away by police, hundreds of passersby shouting "Gay Power" and "We Want Freedom" laid siege to the tavern in a protest demonstration. This reaction is highly unusual. It is very common for police to raid gay bars, with typically making arrests and harassing gay and lesbian customers. They usually occur with little to no protest whatsoever. What made the Stonewall raid so very different is currently a mystery, but we hope to continue to cover this unfolding story.
Welcome back to Flower Power News Live. Today is June 29th, and I am reporting live from the Stonewall Inn as riots continue for the third day. Police are summoned for the third time in less than a week to pull a hostile crowd of nearly 500 protesters chanting gay pride slogans and marching down Christopher Street. Police again repeat their request for the public not to become involved in this protest and avoid the area. However, it seems that many people do not wish to follow this request, and many gays have come out of the closet in record numbers to join and support this cause. A handful of straight men and women have also joined the cause. Many people have visited the Stonewall Inn to write empowering messages supporting the homosexuals, displaying the public opinions of the riot and the police action. The New York Times reports that heavy police reinforcements cleared the Sheridan Square area of Greenwich Village again, when large crowds of young men, angered by a police raid on an inn frequented by homosexuals, swept through the area. A chanting crowd of about 500 persons was scattered by members of the Tactile Police Force and a police of the Charles Street Station, who were also targets occasionally of bottles of beer. A few fires were set in trash barrels along Christopher Street. Tactile Patrol Force units assigned to the East Village poured into the area about 2:15 a.m. after units from the Charles Street Station House were unable to control the crowd of youth, some of whom were throwing bottles and lighting small fires. The police were not withdrawn until about 4 a.m. The violence that has erupted from this protest of gay abuse is shocking and disturbing. A number of people who did not retreat fast enough were pushed and shoved along, and at least 2 men were clubbed to the ground. Graffiti on the boarded-up walls of the Stonewall Inn includes "Support Gay Power" and "Legalize Gay Bars." According to one eyewitness here with us today, the police, armed with nightsticks, seemed bent on retaliation. At one point, 7th Avenue looks like a battlefield in Vietnam. Young people, many of them queers, were lying on the sidewalk, bleeding from head, face, mouth, and even the eyes. Others were nursing bruised and often bleeding arms, legs, backs, and necks. We will continue to inform you with live footage of this ongoing story.
Hello, I'm Catherine Murphy, and today we're interviewing Warren Allen Smith. He was one of the people who was part of the Stonewall riots and is a gay activist. Mr. Smith, what does Stonewall symbolize to you?
Well, originally it symbolized a dirty, ugly place where they charged too much for the spectators. It was unattractive. There was no place for a pickup. Today, it has become a symbol of a place for human rights.
Very interesting. Let me go back. What do you remember when you first heard about it, June 27th, that night? What do you remember?
Okay, it was maybe just a word of mouth, you know. Practically nothing in the newspapers. I mean, there are all kinds of fights springing up in bars in New York City, you know.
So it wasn't huge to begin with?
No, it was just another fight. When I went to Fedora's restaurant, I heard that there was, boy, do you know what happened last night? So then I went over, and here it was again. They're redoing it.
Very interesting. How did you find out about it?
I just heard. I mean, they had coverage of it. Well, the second night to me, it was more like happening. Wow, they're doing it again. I was across the street, and there were like 20, 30 of us. And we saw the 1960s cops coming out, bringing in people. And it was only natural to say, let them go! And we called them pigs. They called the cops pigs in those days. And of course, they would come over and grab us and say, did you call me a pig? And then they would put you in a paddy wagon, too. I was across the street, and there was a garbage can, and I saw a person I didn't know next to me. We just agreed, let's throw this and make things worse. So we carried it a little bit, and then he said fire to the paper that was in it. And we threw it, and immediately I saw a cop running toward me, and I could imagine a headline in the newspaper like, a public school teacher caught throwing garbage can. And I ran like mad. They didn't catch the other guy. They didn't catch me either. It was fun. It was like a food fight in high school. But that was the second night.
Jumpin' jackalopes, Daddy. That was really interesting.
It sure was. Do you like the part about the trash can?
Yeah.
But wait, there's more.
Harvey Milk died today. We will continue our newscast with Christina, who will tell us more about his life. Harvey Milk was born on May 22nd, 1930. Milk served in the military as a diving officer aboard the submarine USS Kitawaki from 1951 to 1955. Milk and his partner McKinley moved to San Francisco from New York in 1969 when McKinley was touring hair. For the next 2 years, Milk let his hair grow long, did not hold down a steady job, and drifted between New York, San Francisco, and Texas. His conservatism faded during the time he spent in San Francisco. In 1973, Milk decided to run for city supervisor. He was endorsed by the Alice B. Toklas Memorial Democratic Club. He ran advocating a reorganization of elections and a reduction of the influence of money. He ran under a socially liberal doctrine and advocated sexual reform and marijuana legalization. His media skills and speeches drew lots of attention. He spoke to Castro Street District with a speech percentage of homosexuals. In the final results, he came in 10th out of 32 because of the poor election organization. He helped lead a boycott that forced between distributors to hire more gay drivers. He also helped found Castro Village Association, which helped attract customers and promote gay businesses. When George Moscone was elected mayor in 1976, he appointed Harvey Milk city commissioner in the Board of Permit Appeals. Milk narrowly lost 2 more elections. In 1977, when the format was changed so that neighborhoods elected their supervisors, Harvey Milk was able to win the position of supervisor of the Castro district. He then supported a bill that outlawed discrimination based on sexual orientation. The law was passed and showed the increasing influence of homosexuals in the country. Milk also aided the defeat of a law that would have mandated the firing of homosexual educators. 10 months after being elected, Dan White resigned from office because his salary was not enough to support his family. When he decided to return, the supervisors persuaded Moscone to appoint someone who better represented the district. On November 27, 1978, when Moscone was planning on announcing White's replacement, White snuck through a window and shot Moscone. He then met Harvey Milk in the hallway and shot him 5 times. The political influence that Harvey Milk had when he was alive seems much less important when compared with the influence his death had. His death became a rallying point for a human rights activist and became a martyr. His death exposed the amount of hate there was in this country and the obstacles that needed to be overcome for equal rights to be given to all people, regardless of sexual orientation. As Harvey Milk stated on November 27, 1978, "If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door." Gee, Daddy, what's the situation like today?
Well, homosexuals still can't marry in most states, but there has been some recent progress in the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. which allows homosexuals to serve openly in the military. This is one of the steps on the road to equality for homosexuals, and yay.
Yay!